So hello again students. So we have already ended up with our second session and I hope you are clear about adolescent, and today in your third session we will be discussing about how to manage your stress, what are the personal hygiene and what are the emotional changes that happens in your adolescent stage. Under your physical changes during adolescence will move on to your development of sex organs and secondary sexual characters. Okay, as I have already discussed with you about the change in your shape and size, the change in your voice, and also the increase in the activity of your sweat and sebaceous glands. Now we'll move on to your development of your sex organs and your secondary sexual characters. Okay, so I have told you that during your puberty stage, okay, in adolescent your puberty stage also occur that time. Okay, so what is your puberty stage? That means where your reproductive, okay, your reproductive part, they become matured, or we can also say the development of your sexual characteristic that happens in both males and your females. Okay, so this part is very important, as I've told you that before you reach your adolescent stage, okay, your sex organs, okay, they are still, or I can say your reproductive system, or reproductive part, they are still immature, they have not become matured yet. Okay, so when you start reaching your adolescent period, that time, okay, your reproductive part or your reproductive phase, they start growing, they start approaching to the maturity level. Okay, so what will happen is that in boys you'll have an increase in the production of your male sex hormones. Okay, the male sex hormones, remember that in your male part also you have an hormone, okay, that is being secreted out, and it is known as your testosterone. Okay, here I have written here the term testosterone. That means an increase in the production of a male sex hormones. Okay, whereas in the girls you have the increase in the production of a female sex hormones. Even the girls, they have a female sex hormone that is known as your estrogen. Okay, so those estrogen, they are also the female sex hormones. So together this testosterone and your estrogen, they are known as your secondary sexual characters. Okay, so let's discuss more further in details what happened during the development of your sex organs. So during this development of your sex organs, I will first explain in terms of boys. Okay, so in boys, as I have discussed with you in your last chapter, okay, about the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system, I hope you still remember. So in here, your testes, the boys' testes, penis and scrotum, they start growing in size. Okay, so once they start growing in size, at that time the boys will able to produce sperms. Remember, I told you that sperms play an important role in a male, because they are the ones which help in the reproduction of a new being. Okay, in the production of a new organism, I told you that. So what will happen is that they are able to produce and gift out, or we can say ejaculate, the sperms. Okay, and also not only that, they will start developing a body hair. A hair will start growing in their bodies. Okay, it will grow in the facial part. Okay, you have seen that boys, when they start growing your adolescent stage, you start having a mustache, right? You start having a beard. Then as well as what will happen is that you'll start having a pubic hair. Okay, that is in your the outer part of your sex organs. Okay, you'll have that, as well as you'll start having a body hair. So now we'll move on to the girls. So in girls, the breasts, okay, the first one is that your breast starts growing. Okay, so your breast starts to grow, and they'll start developing a milk producing glands. Okay, the milk producing glands, they will also start growing and they will develop. Okay, first your breast will start growing. Okay, and then once they start developing, okay, a milk producing glands, or we can also call as your mammary glands, okay, they will also start to grow and develop. Okay, at the same time, the pubic hair, they will also start to grow in girls too at this age, And not only that, okay, as I have told you that even in the boys, their sex organs, the testes, the penis and the scrotum, they grow in size. So as well as in the girls, okay, they will also experience change internally, okay, that is the uterus, the vagina and other parts of the reproductive system also will start to grow, okay. And this period, I think you have all observed during girls, especially girls, that during this adolescence period, it is the period where you first start having your menstrual periods, okay. So at the age of 12 or 13 you will observe that you start having your menstrual period, because this period, it marks the beginning of your reproductive phase, okay, where you're capable of bearing a baby. Remember that once you start having a menstruation, it shows that you are capable of having a baby, okay, because this is where I have already explained to you about your menstruation period in the previous chapter, in the female reproductive system, yes or no. So at this menstruation, I told you that the female egg, they start developing and they start moving towards the uterus, right? So at the same time, it shows that you are capable of bearing a baby, okay. And this menstruation, I've already discussed, it may last up to 45 or 50 years of age, okay. And after you cross at this stage of age, okay, this reproductive phase will start ending, okay. You will not capable of bearing a baby anymore. Once your menstruation stops, okay, you will not be capable of producing eggs, okay. Since you will not able to produce egg, that time you are not capable of producing a baby or bearing a baby, and that period, it is known as your menopause, okay. Okay, now let's move on to the next topic, that is your emotional changes during adolescence, okay. Like during this stage, you have observed that why is my life like this, why can't I do that, you start thinking, right? You start developing all these thoughts in your mind, okay. And sometimes you think that you're the best, right? Sometimes you think that whatever you do, you're always right and others are always wrong, okay. So why is this happen is that before you were never like that. When you were in lower classes, you listen to everyone and you never start thinking about anything else, okay. But once you start reaching your adolescent stage, you start having all this type of thinking, okay. You start thinking, why I cannot do this, why I'm behaving like this, why am I so tempered, or why I can't concentrate, why I'm not listening to my parents. And sometimes, obviously, during this stage, when you are in lower classes, whatever your parents tell you to do, you start doing, right? Without any complaint, you will do it. But when you start reaching your adolescent stage, sometimes you think that you're too great, right? You think that you do not, whatever your parents tell you, you don't even do it, because this is during this adolescent stage, you are having all this type of changes, okay. So sometimes what happens is that you find a hard time to understand your surroundings, your peers, family and friends, okay. At this point, what happens is that you start to think independently, okay. And you start feeling that independence, okay. You start having that independent feeling towards yourself, okay. You want to hold your life and decision by yourself. You do not think about what your parents are deciding for you. At this stage, you want to have your own decision, you want to have your own life choice, okay. And sometimes you often sometimes you do not trust the adults or your family members, and you always tend to make a wrong decision. I hope this happens in every one of you, okay. Because during this stage, even me, I have been through it. What happened is that during this stage, we think that we are so right, and whatever our elders or whatever our parents or any family members who are elder than us, whatever they tell us, we think that they're wrong, okay. And since whatever good things they teach us or what they tell us, we think that they are wrong, sometimes we often make a wrong decision in our life. When we were small, we always run after our parents, we always go near to our mom, right? But during this adolescent stage, we find happiness more with our friends than with our family members, okay. Like we start getting far away from our parents, we start having cigarettes. We do not share anything with our family, we do not share anything with our parents. Instead, in this stage, we start trusting our friends more than our parents, okay. So we feel that our friends are more right than our parents, okay, and we find more happiness to stay with our friends than to stay with our family, okay, and we start getting influenced by their lifestyle, by our friends lifestyle and what they wear, etc. Okay, suppose if our friends they smoke, we think that smoking is a trend, right? So we start eventually start developing the feeling that what they do is a great thing, and we start even involving in those type of bad habits which can only destroy our body, okay, and we are more concerned about what they wear. At this stage we are more concerned about what fashion is in. We tend to buy the clothes which are now everyone is wearing. We tend to behave like what our friends are behaving or what the other surroundings are behaving. We find them more cool, okay, in the modern ways. I'll just explain that we find those things more cool than what our parents teach us, okay. Okay, next comes your personal hygiene, okay. So since there's a lot of physical changes taking place during your adolescence, okay, it is extremely very important, as I want to say, is that it's very important to maintain your personal hygiene, okay, because personal hygiene is a must for everyone, okay. If you take care of your personal hygiene, you will have a better life, I guarantee you, okay. So in your book they have suggest that when the sweat glands and your sebaceous glands they become more active, okay, I've written down there, the oil and the sweat blocks the pores and initiate bacterial growth, okay. So what happened is that I told you that when your face becomes oily, okay, or when your face is filled with sweat, that time it is very important to take to wash your face at least twice a day and to take bath at least once every day, okay, because sometimes when there's excess amount of sweat that comes out from our body, if we do not clean it, what happens is that the bacteria they start growing in our body, okay. Sometimes we might have a bacterial infection, okay, sometimes we might even have a fungus infection, okay, because when this oil and when this sweat they start excreting more from our body, the bacteria or the fungus they tend to grow, okay. So it is very why they tend to grow. When they grow, what happen is that this sweat and this oil, okay, when they're excessively coming out from our body, they tend to block the pores, okay. So in our skin, remember that we have a tiny holes that is known as pores. So when excess amount of sweat and oil comes out, they tend to block them. So when they block them, more bacteria they start growing. So sometimes we start having those itch, our body they start having with our body becomes itching. Sometimes we also have pimples, okay, because that's why it is very necessary to maintain cleanliness, okay. So every time in the morning when you get up, you wash your face, okay, you take bath, and when you come back, it's before sleeping, it's always necessary to wash your face, okay. If the more you wash your face, the better it is, okay. It's not mandatory that you always have to use a face wash when you wash your face, okay. Sometimes when there's too much of sweat or when your face is oily, you can just wash them with water. The next point is that when a girl start menstruate when a girl have a menstruation, okay, they should keep track of their periods and maintain cleanliness and hygiene during the period to avoid any infection, okay. So as this is for girls, okay, I want to say is that when you have your menstruation, you should always keep a record, okay. So suppose if you have a menstruation for 1 week, okay, you keep a record that and you count the cycles, okay. I have already told you in your last chapter, so you count your cycles and keep a record of it, and so that when you'll have your so that you will know when you'll have your next menstruation, okay. And at the same time, when you have your menstruation, it is very important to maintain cleanliness. And I would like to suggest is that when you have your menstruation, it's always important to take bath more often, okay. At the same time, it is very important to change your those pads which you are using, because if you do not maintain cleanliness during this time, you tend to have an infection, okay, and this infection can lead to serious disease, okay. And as well as what happen is that sometimes we tend to have a bad smell, Okay, so it is very, very important to keep your body clean and hygiene when you have a menstruation. Okay, the next point you have is a proper balanced diet. So during this adolescent stage, as I have told you, that you have an increase in your growth in height and as well as in your physical attributes. So it is very important to maintain a balanced diet. Okay, because if you do not have a proper balanced diet, I hope you all know what is a balanced diet, right? It contains all the nutrients, that is your proteins, vitamins, mineral salts, carbohydrates and all. Okay, so if these things are not properly taken, what will happen is that it can lead to a deficiency disease. So you should be always aware that you should always eat this food, nutritious food, that will help you to maintain your balanced diet. Okay, as well as it will not affect your growth and development in your body. Okay, sometimes I told you that during adolescent stage you tend to have weight, you tend to grow in size. Okay, and you also tend to grow in height. So it is very important to take all the nutritious food, because if you do not take all this nutritious food, sometimes you will not able to grow properly. Okay, sometimes a person will remain short, or sometimes the person will become too thin. Okay, so if you have this nutritious food during your age of adolescence, you will start maintaining a proper health. Okay, and eventually if you have a proper health, your body will eventually will start growing, and whatever development your body has to take, it will be taken in a proper manner. So remember that a balanced diet, it is very important, and always have grain vegetables, that is a must, and you should always have a fruits in order to maintain a proper healthy body. Next comes your stress management. Okay, this one is very interesting. So sometimes during your adolescent stage, I think during your stage, you often tend to have stress. Sometimes it may be unnecessary stress. Okay, so what happened is that you during your adolescent stage you feel stress due to changes, okay, that experience in the body and your surrounding. Okay, and there is nothing to be serious about it. Okay, so it is normal to have those changes, because and there's nothing to feel stressed about it. Sometimes you will feel stressed that why my this part of body is growing, or sometimes you'll be thinking why I'm having this and that, right? Especially according to your body changes. So you should not feel stressed about it. It is normal. Okay, always remember that during your adolescent stage you will have a lot of physical change. Okay, not only that, you will also have an emotional change. So you also need to understand that all these changes are a part of your growth and development. Okay, so don't think that not only you are suffering all these type of changes. Okay, because even us, when we were in your age, we all have this type of physical and emotional change. Okay, so there's nothing to be stressed about. And when you have all this stress, or when you have all this change, okay, it is necessary for you to talk to your parents or teacher about how you feel and share your problem that you are facing. Okay, remember that your parents and your teachers will always be there for you. Like whatever problem you have or whatever change you feel that is giving you stress, it is very important that you share with your parents or your teacher. Okay, because this problem can be handled by your parents and teacher, not by your friends. Remember that your friends are of your same age, so they will have less knowledge than your parents and your teachers. So it's always important that you start talking with them and you start taking advice from them. Okay, and you should know that there is no shortcut method to get away from these changes, especially in your physical being. Okay, sometimes what happens is that you often tend to get involved in your friends misguidance. Okay, sometimes your friends might tell you to smoke, or sometimes your friends may ask you to drink an alcohol, or sometimes your friends may even ask you to do drugs. Okay, so these are all the bad habits, and it is not good for you to get influenced by them. Okay, so what will happen is that doing all these type of bad habits, it can destroy your mental and emotional development. Okay, and then especially if you take drugs, or if you take an alcohol, or if you smoke, what will happen is that it will affect your mental, okay, and your emotional development, and it can give you an addiction. Okay, so once you become addicted to it, it is very hard to go away from that addiction. Remember that. So if your friends or anyone influence you to do all these bad habits, you should have the courage to say no. Okay, because once you get addicted, remember that you will not only destroy yourself, you will also destroy your body. And I'm telling you, your body is the most important part, okay, that you have to maintain it. So if anyone asks you to do all these things, you should always say no, so that you will have a healthy and uh, a healthy life. Okay, and if you don't do this, you will not have stress. I'm telling you why it leads us to stress, because once we have this addiction in us, we start thinking about where to get money. I'm telling you, everything you do not get it for free, right? So what will happen is that you'll start involving in more bad habits. Okay, so you should stay away from the word called addiction. Another one is that when you have an exam or when you have anything, okay, some you, especially when you have exam, you start having more stress. Okay, what happens is that half of your brain is telling you to study, half of your mind is telling you to study, half of your mind is telling you to play games or to go out and have fun with your friends, right? So sometimes it is very hard for you to handle this type of situation. You become more stressed because if you go and play, okay, or if you play games in your mobile, or if you go out and play with your friends, or if you hang out with your friends, a part of you will have a stress that you need to study, right? And a part of you, and if you study, what happens is that your mind is telling you that, oh, my friends are enjoying, oh, I need to complete my game, oh, I need to do this and that. It gives you, so you cannot, your mind cannot become stable. So it is very important, okay, to manage your routine. Okay, so make a routine in such a way that you will able to handle your studies, as well as you'll able to handle your recreation or your recreational activities. Okay, so you should always have a balance in your life when it comes to your personal and your studies and your hobbies and your social life. And remember, when you have stress, the best way to maintain, okay, or you can say the way of dealing this type of stress is, first one, I told you that when you have stress, the best thing is that you should talk to your parents or talk to your teachers. And the second one is that you can do yoga and meditation. This yoga and meditation, okay, it helps to boost the confidence and maintain your physical and mental health. Okay, and then your physical exercises such as your yoga, dance, and any kind of sports play a significant role in dealing any kind of stress. So when you have any stress that is coming in your brain, that is making your that's making you overthink, what you do is that you start doing physical exercises like your yoga, as well as you can dance or you can play any kind of sports, so that it can relieve you from your stress. Okay, and it is always better to play a sport or develop a hobby, okay, which will help you to get rid of your stress. Okay, and it can also give you an achievement in your sports, or as also it can give you an achievement in your arts. If you love in drawing, so what, when you have stress, it's better to draw, so that you can so that you can have a more better drawings. Okay, at the same time, it is important to have a rational thinking. Okay, you should always think positive, and you should always think before you do anything, you should always think twice. Okay, and if you talk to your parents, teachers, or elders, it is always helpful to this to deal with your stressful situation. So I hope you understand by how to handle your stress, okay, how to maintain your personal hygiene, okay, and I hope you understand what are the changes that happens during adolescence, and what are the development of your secondary sex organs and your secondary sexual characteristics.